Hey, it's Max. I wanted to make a video today about Sandspiel Studio and show you how to design elements that behave like plants. So the element that I want to kind of make today is something that's really similar to my favorite element from Sandspiel, which is the seed, which is an element that when you place it, falls down until it touches a nice place to grow. And then it grows upwards in this kind of snaky vine until it culminates in a little pretty flower. I don't know why this is my favorite element in Sandspiel. It's just like so satisfying and fun to make beautiful gardens with it. And I don't know, like the different textures of it and the way that it grows are really nice. And it's also one of the most complicated elements. So I thought that this would be interesting to try to recreate in Sandspiel Studio. So over here, here we've got Sandspiel Studio with the default elements of water and air and sand. And maybe I thought that to make a little bit of a nicer place for our flowers to grow, we could have it could be called dirt instead of sand and make it a little bit darker, a little more soil-like. This is something I like about Sandspiel Studio is that you can kind of customize things and make them look really pretty. You know what? Why call it dirt? We can call it soil. Doesn't that sound like wouldn't you want to grow, if you were a flower, would you rather grow in sand, dirt, or soil? I would pick soil. And then also the air, I'm going to make it like a little bit of like a prettier sky color maybe. Is that nice? Let's see. How's that? Okay. And so I mentioned that we're going to be making this element seed slash flower. And the way we're going to do it in Sandspiel Studio is in order to keep our code kind of clean, we're going to make it in 3 parts. So we're going to have the first part is going to be called seed. And there's some default code here, which I'm going to delete. We don't need that. The second part is going to be called, we call it stem or plant. I'll call it stem because it's the stem of a flower. And this one will be green. And then the final part will be petal. And this will be pink. Cool. So the behavior for seed is going to be pretty easy, I think. It's going to be pretty similar to actually soil itself in that it's something that will just fall downwards. So we'll say if down is air, swap down. So that's nice. And then the second thing, we'll just make piles. If down is soil, change me into stem. So now it will fall, and then whichever part of it touches the soil will turn into stem. And the problem we have is that it can kind of stack up. And so maybe what we'll also do is we'll say, if down is soil or, oh, my cat's on my keyboard. If down is soil or stem, then turn into stem yourself. And so now we can kind of pile it up and it will make these piles of stem, I guess. It doesn't really grow on its own. It kind of just piles up. So to make it grow, we can take stem and add some behavior here. So what this might look like is growing is kind of like going upwards. So we'll say if up is air, instead of swapping up, because that would make it fall up. We don't want that. I'll make it fall back down, down, down. And then I'll get rid of it. So instead of swapping up, we will clone ourselves up. So now we have this like very aggressive straight growing grass. So we could slow it down a little bit. So one way I might slow it down is I'm going to wrap it in an if statement. And the if statement will only happen like 1 in 20 times. So now it'll grow 20 times as slowly. It's still pretty fast, but now it's a little more manageable. But the problem is that it never stops. It keeps going. So this is where we're going to use a really useful but a little bit tricky strategy and feature in Sandspiel Studio to make something that will do something but then stop. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to use this value called color fade. So color fade is a property of every cell of the grid of Sandspiel Studio. And, oops, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. And how it works is whenever a cell is created in the world, it rolls a random number between 0 and 100. That's its color fade. And the main thing this is used for is you'll see that not every green pixel is the same green color. They're kind of in this range between this green, we'll make it a little more exaggerated, and this green. And that's determined by the color fade value. So whenever the color fade is 0, it'll be the darkest range of its gradient. And whenever it's 100, it'll be the lightest. So you can see here that this one is 22. This one is 88, so it's higher. And yeah, there's just like these values. And when you clone something up, you also clone your value for color fade. So it's this extra little piece of data that is carried around in every cell. And you can think of it, I like to think of it as like the strength of the stem. So maybe we could say that whenever it has like 100, it's like a very strong piece of grass that's still growing up. And whenever it's 0, it's kind of like a weak grass that's ready to turn into a flower. And so what we can do is we can say, whenever we copy ourselves upward, we can also decrease the color fade of up by, well, it says increase color fade of up by 5. So if we want to decrease it by 5, we'll increase it by -5. So now, reset, soil, seed. So what you'll see is that as the grass goes upwards, the color fades from lighter colors down to darker colors. And so we're almost there to make it kind of run out of oomph so that it won't grow forever. We just need to add another if statement, which says, if color fade is bigger than 0, grow. So everything inside here, which is this stuff, only happens, this is the growing logic, only happens if we have kind of like color fade left to work with. And then if we do, we'll grow up and decrease its color fade by 5. So now if I sprinkle some new seeds here, they will grow up, but they kind of slow down and then stop. So that's kind of good. That's a good start. And the next thing is that this grass still kind of like grows in these straight lines, very dense together. It doesn't look that pretty compared to this grows like it wiggles around. It also doesn't like grow too close together. So let's try to do that by saying, instead of always looking in stem, instead of always looking up of where to grow, let's grow to the northeast diagonally. So now we grow sideways, but we're still very dense and we don't really wiggle. And then what we can do is we can wrap this whole thing in a random horizontal reflection. So what this means is that it will, every code, all the code that is inside of this purple block will randomly choose, if it would be to the right, it'll be to the left half the time. So, oh boy. Oh, we forgot. So the reason it's growing infinitely now is that we forgot to decrease. This one also needs to be to the northeast. So let's reset and see what we have now. Gonna plant some seeds. So they're growing diagonally, which is kind of cool, but they still seem like quite densely, they're not really like making this airiness. And so one trick you can use, you can have another condition which will say, oops, I have to go to stem. Right now we check if there's space exactly to the northeast of me, which is sometimes flipped, so sometimes it's the northwest, but if there's a little bit of space there, I'll grow. But what if we say you need like more space in your headroom to grow at all? And so if there's stuff over here, you'll be like, I won't grow. And that'll kind of stop them from competing with each other so much. And maybe we can think of it as you need to get a lot of sunlight to grow as a plant. So you need to have emptiness all around you. So the way we can do that is we can say, and. So we can say, in order to grow, check that my northeast has space, and check that my northwest has space. So that's like both directions need to be empty, and then I'm willing to grow. So let's look at what that looks like. So I'm gonna clear this up, plant some new seeds, and now they behave pretty nicely. They do this little wiggling, snaking thing, but they don't compete as much. So when they're near each other, they'll stop growing, and so you'll only get a few tendrils. And they also won't grow forever. They'll stop at a certain point. So I like this a lot. And the last step is that we want our petals. So when they've stopped growing, when we've reached like this pinnacle, this culmination, which is I guess where when our color fade has become 0, then otherwise, let's say, change me into, oops, now it's making soil. So we can change me into something else. Let's change me into petal. So now you can see that this one little pixel petal will form in each little location. And the other thing we could do is we could maybe say, like that's pretty nice. But what if we want these petals to also kind of grow as well? Because in Sandspiel, these petals they have their own little poof balls around each one. So the way we can do that is actually something really similar to the way that stem grows here, where it grows upwards and it wiggles, but at a certain point it runs out of oomph and it stops. So let's take all of this code and put it here in petal, except we don't need to change ourselves into petal anymore when we're done. And so now we have these like snake type flowers. But what if instead of this, we say that the petal can grow in any direction, not just horizontal, it'll go, so we'll put it in a random rotation, and now these petals will grow out in every direction and make these giant flowers. And the way that we can kind of make them a lot smaller is that right now it rolls a random number between 0 and 100, and then each time it grows outwards, it decrements by 5. So what if we decrement by a bigger number, like by 15? That'll make it a lot smaller, because it'll run out of oomph sooner. So I'll plant some seed, and when it reaches the top, it'll hopefully make a petal, and the petal has a certain size. So these are still probably too big. Maybe I need to decrease by 20. And I also think that this random 1 in 100, 1 in 20 chance is meant to slow it down, but I don't really like it. I kind of like when the stem grows slowly and then the petal just poofs in. I think it looks kind of cool. So oops, soil, seed. So we grow upwards, and then when we reach the culmination, we get a little flower. And these look okay so far. If I want to grow them on top of each other, I think that I need to make my seed also grow if it falls on a petal. And then the last thing here is that you'll see that in Sandspiel, we get a variety of colors of petals. And so the way we can do that is we can use the hue rotate value. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say here in stem, whenever we create a petal, let's also set its hue rotate to a random number between 0 and 30. So now if I plant some seeds, there will be a variety of colors. So I think I do want to make these petals a little bit more saturated. There we go. And they look okay. maybe we don't need, maybe they're a little bit spread out. So this logic we had here, which is there needs to be more space for it to grow. Maybe we can say just if northeast is air. So they'll grow a little bit more solidly. That looks nice to me. And just so you know, the way that this hue rotate works is that this petal color is here, and rotate will rotate it around in a circle. So on 100-degree rotation is a full rotation in this world. So we're gonna have a 30-degree rotation here, which will go this way. So it'll be arranged between yellow and pink. And maybe we can even bring this a little further here to get more purple flowers. So, okay. So here we go. Now we have soil, seeds, which we can grow one at a time or in a big pile. And they grow into these stems, which then culminate in a little flower, or in this case, kind of a big flower. So I don't know about you, I feel pretty happy with this. I might keep tweaking it. What I'll do is I'll upload it now so other people can play with it. And it'd be really cool if you're interested in trying to design your own plant or your own flower or your own fungus or some other thing that grows and stops. Or maybe you want to make it so that, like, if you water it, maybe it needs water to grow or something like that. You can use these different values. Right now the water just pools up on top of it. But yeah, I'd be really curious to see what kind of plants that you can design in Sandspiel Studio. So thanks for watching this video. It got kind of long. I don't know, is this really like, I guess this is 3 elements in one, but they form a little family tree between the seed, the stem, and the petal. It'd be cool if, like, oh, maybe there could be bees that'll make the petals turn into stems, so then you can have a whole circle of life. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for watching this video and checking out Sandspiel Studio.